Good morning, everyone.
Okay, good morning, and we're on the Chesamud Beis, I think. Is that true?
That's some of the
That's some of
four
the-
lines from the bottom.
Yeah, so just to recap a little bit.
Okay.
I'm sorry that I have to touch it sometimes, and okay. But before that, the Gemara said,
Get it right, then it stays the whole.
right, but if I touch the screen, I mess it up sometimes, and sometimes I can't scroll as well without. I'm trying.
Most of the time, it's a million times better than it was.
Yeah, definitely
Okay.
much better. It was worth the investment.
Yeah,
Whatever you pay for it was worth
Thank
it.
you.
What do you pay for this?
Either you always have something.
Okay. So the Mishnah, the Gemara takes us into a little bit the sugi, which is really a Mishnah coming up later on. I don't know why the Gemara put it over here before the Mishnah. The Mishnah is going to say that the din of the B'fani Nechtam, but B'fani Nechtam also has to do with that's not only by get, also by an eved. When an eved gets shechur, we'll get the terminology. Get shechur is a document of liberation. That's how the adon frees him. So also when he comes, he also has to very many similarities to get, which is going to come up in the Mishnah is coming up. That's going to be the rest of the parak. And the first thing is b'fani nechtav, that when the get is brought, so you have to verify the signatures by and the shema by saying b'fani nechtav or b'fani nechtav by a get shechur also. The other case was that Adam, the master, gave get shechur to the eved, and he wrote atzmach v'nichsai k'nuyilach. Not only did he want to free him, he also wanted to give him all of his estate. He said, "You and my estate is given to you." So here's a problem. Not a problem, but it's a distinction because this din of b'fani nechtam was only by a special leniency by a woman and by ever that it should be able to verify it even without two edim. But that only applies to this thing of being liberated. But as far as getting the chasim, it's a regular document. They gave him a shtar. You have to have two edim to verify it. That's what it means. Atzma kana nechasim lefana, because of course, if he brings verification, he gets the nechasim also. But without the verification, he himself is only going to be believed to liberate himself, and not for the nechasim. That was good. Then the Gemara goes into a question about kol nechasei k'nuyilach. Maybe just highlight that. The issue is going to be kol nechasei k'nuyilach. That he didn't say before the case was that he said atzmach v'nichsei k'nuyilach, and that the Gemara has no issue over there. What? Two things. Atzmach v'nichsai. So atzmach he's believed but b'fani nechtav, and nichsai is like a separate document. But here that he said kol nechasei k'nuyilach, so there's going to be an issue that kol nechasei includes everything, and he is also included in the nechasim. The Eved himself is part of the estate of the master, and when he says, "I'm giving you everything I own," that includes himself. So really, it should free him, but also it includes all of his nechasim also. So he included a package deal, you and everything, but he just said it in one word. He said kol nechasei. So here's going to be the question: do you also split it to say we said a second ago that as far as himself he's believed with b'fani nechtav, and as far as the nechasim he's not? Or is there a problem, the fact that it's all together in one, a package deal, maybe you can't split it? So that was the Gemara yesterday. Abai said, you don't split it. You don't split the two. First, Abai thought that he's believed on everything. That's how Abai said, Mitoch shekon na'atzma kon nechasim, he gets everything. Rabbi said, why should he believe on the nechasim? There's a special kula only by the shechur, not by the nechasim. So Abai changed his mind. Okay, maybe the other way. So he's not believed in anything. Just like he's not believed on the chasam, he's not believed for himself either. And that Rabbi also said that you why are you putting all each one is believed, one is not believed. Why are you putting it all together in the same package? And that's why Rabbi argued, and that's how we got yesterday to the end of the Gemara. That Rabbi said, that was Rabbi's talk. We had Abai before, and Abai says that you don't split it, but Rabbi says it means the Gemara before by Atzmach v'nichsai. This Gemara that says kol nechasai. Both of them, the din is atzmach kana nechasim lo kana. The rest of the Gemara now is going to be about the concept called palgina dibura. Although palgina dibura, it's a little bit not such simple Gemara coming up. I mean, the concepts are not so simple. The words will be simple, but the concepts. Palgina dibura sounds like, even though there's only one word, kol nechasai, and now you're going to have signatures. You want to know if the verification is good, and you can say manavshach, is it good or is it not good? So we're going to say believing him as partially and as far as himself, but you're not going to believe it, the verification as far as it goes on the other nechasim. But the Gemara sees a problem with that. That's considered palgina dibura, as if we're dividing the word that he said. And as far as some things we're going to believe him, as far as some things we're not going to believe him. What's the problem? Why not?
Splitting.
Palgina means to split. Palgina means we split the word. Palgina dibura, we split the words.
There's two different things. This and that.
Even though he said one word, if we two things mamish, then he split. He said Atzmach
Is
Nixon.
it?
But if he said Kol Nechasai, and we're going to believe him as far as some things, as some things not,
Right.
that's like a new issue, stepping into a new issue. Could you do that?
Oh,
Can you say
Palgina
Palgina
doesn't
Dibur?
work.
Is there a source or it's a svar? To me,
It sounds like it's far.
but how could you make up such a svar? You need like you.
No, I mean, either
No,
yes or no. I don't know. I don't know what to say. It doesn't sound like the rice over here. I don't think so. I don't know. It doesn't bring any source. The Gemara is not going to bring any source. It's going to be, do you say such a concept or not? Can
It's a
you,
genius idea, but like mechates.
which way would you say? What's Pashut? You say
No,
that
you can't split it.
you
up.
cannot split it up. I would say the opposite. Why can't you split it up? No, I'm saying,
No, when you have eight information when the Gemara about the Ravani Butsonis, you believe him on this, you don't believe him on that. Like, what do you mean? He said one mishpat. How can you believe him on?
let's say keep it simple to our Gemara, that we have to have verification. So he says it's verified. Why not? Do we trust him? So usually we don't trust an Eidach.
He
trust him with
has liability regarding this and not regarding this. You're saying it's touched like that.
I don't see why not. I don't see, the Gemara's going
That
to
is when it's Meshel and Elam. That's what gets more complicated.
okay,
Okay,
but
this
you're
is
saying that it's Pashut, this far. I don't know which way is Pashut. I don't know which,
Okay.
but okay, I don't know.
So if there were 2 8, then you surely no problem.
Yeah, 2 8 there's no sugya. 2 8 yeah.
No,
But here the
one,
case,
1 8 works for get him free, but doesn't work to get him.
Right,
Yeah, that
right.
makes sense.
So you'd say Palgina, you say no problem. So this one is not.
Because no, that's the way it's set up.
But usually it's two separate issues. Well, usually it's an issue he comes with a gift shechur.
Right.
Okay, then it's that issue he comes with a document of present. Give me a present. That's another issue.
Right.
But here, put it all into the same word. Even in the same document, if it says atzmach v'nipsai, two separate words, that's also the Gemara is no problem. But if he said one word, kol l'chasen, that's going to include both him and also then the chasen, that the Gemara gets into the issue of Palgina. Okay, that's what the rest of the Gemara, not the whole day today, but that's going to go to the next onward. Nope, I'm sorry again. Nope. Not driving well today. Okay. So this is the Gemara now. You that say you split it, you hold Palgina Dibura, and we're going to find that that's Reb Shimon. Well, we're going to get into my focus Tanom now. And the Gemara's kasha is going to be that we don't pass like Reb Shimon. That's what the Gemara is going to be against Rabbi. You say Palgina, and Reb Shimon seems to be the one who says Palgina, but the Tanakama here, who's going to be Reb Meir, he says you don't say Palgina, and therefore that's a kasha on you. That's what we can say. Rabbi is the one who says that you don't say Palgina Dibur. That's why you put it all into package deal. Rabbi said split it.
Right.
This you believe, this you don't believe. And now Rabbi Matan is saying that you who are saying Palgina and hold like Reb Shimon, we don't pass like him, we pass like a mayor. That's going to be the outline of the kasha. Here it goes. Come on, who do you hold like Reb Shimon? Dama Palgina Dibur. He's the one who says you can split the word. Where do you find that? The Tam. If somebody writes all of his estate to his Eved, the slave Eved goes free because he's part of the estate. Stuff out simple. Shir karka kolshin. What if he left over a bit? Some karka. Karka is karka. Eved is not karka. He left over some karka.
Without specifying which,
What? Without specifying which one, let's say. But he said karka. Karka kolshin. So lo yosef ben chorim. The Eved doesn't go free.
Is this a second case, or is this? It says it hakasuf kol nechasa.
Here it's going to be a kosef kol nechasa, but shir karka kolshin. He wrote everything with some exception. Chutz mi karka kolshin.
Okay.
So what would you say? I would have said that okay, chutz mi karka kolshin, that he gets everything except for a minimum amount, a certain amount of karka.
Mm-hmm.
But he should get himself free. Why not? He's not karka. He's not karka.
Right.
But here it says he doesn't go free. Why not? Why doesn't Evan go free? That's because he left over some karka. He have a whole estate, which includes the Evan and everything else that he has. But then he says, with the exception of a karka kolshin, a bit of karka. So for some reason, the Evan doesn't go free. Why doesn't Evan go free? So if we stop here, the Gemara thinks the reason is because lo palgina dibura.
Because lo
palgina dibura. You can't split the words. He said, I'm giving all my kol nechasai.
Oh, and there was some left over. So how could it be also you don't get anything?
Right, even though he said with
Oh,
exception,
no.
why not? Why did you say that? Is that I would have thought. I don't understand why this is called issue of palgina dibur. He said, "I'm giving everything besides something." Okay, so besides that, that's called palgina. He said he spoke up. Besides, I don't get it, but that's what the Gemara seems to hold. That if you make an exception, that's called palgina dibur. I don't get it at all. I really don't understand it at all. But let's take the Gemara. That's for the first time around. That the Gemara sees in Rav Meir, this Tanakama is going to be Rav Meir. So the reason why he says is because since the statement which he said the shechur, the freedom that he's giving is through the statement of kol nechasai. I'm giving all my nechasim, and then there's some pagam, there's some deficiency in that kol nechasai because right away he said with the exception of something. So it's not a valid statement anymore. I'll just jump a second, just the place who says this. If you go to the next page, Taisvis that says Allah Rav Meir. That's these words over here. Do I see it? I don't see it anymore. Oh, here it is. No, I don't see it. Okay. Okay, I'll take it like that. Okay, I thought I would help out, but I don't see what I wanted to say. So the Gemara thinks at this point the reason of a Meir is because lo plug-in and since he left out something from the kol nechasai with exception of something, so it's not any more a statement that's pure, and therefore you can't split it. The same way he's not going to get that nechasim, he's also not going to get free also. Once he doesn't go free, he doesn't get anything. If he's not free, he's an Eved. Okay. So this Tanakama holds lo plug-in and dibur, and that's going to be the kasha soon that we're going to pass like him. Reb Shimon is the one who says plug-in and dibur. It means you hold like Reb Shimon. I'm not going to pass like him. Reb Shimon says that he is a ben chorin, even if he left over some karka. Lo lamu ben chorin. In the case that we just said, that even that case where he said chutz, the karka culture, even in that case also the Eved goes free. He doesn't get a karka culture, but he's still a ben chorin, which means yes, plug-in and dibur.
Who was this? Achi Yomer?
Achi Yomer, called the chasai nesul.
He will be if this is what he said.
There is a case where he's not going to become free, but not in the case we just said. The case where he said of sheer karka culture, that case he is a ben chorin. He doesn't get a karka culture.
Oh, so
he goes
here
free.
odd means like unless he would say.
Unless, right. And the following case is going to be the case where he does not go free. What's the case? In a case, Achi Yomer, called the chasai nesul leploni avdi, chutz mi echad mi ribu shavahen. I'm giving everything to my Eved. At this point, I think we could even put it in parentheses. It's not Yomer, it's not our subject so much. But okay, let's say we'll put it in parentheses. If he says, if he didn't say he said a certain percentage. I'm giving him all of my nechasim except for a certain percentage. So then the certain percentage could include echad mibo means 1 out of 10,000. The size of 1/10,000. Wow. Now that's already a Tosefet Chiddush, that's extra Chiddush, that he might say that how much is Eved worth? Am I such a small negligible amount? I'm only 1 out of 10,000. But let's leave out that cheshbon a second, that Chiddush. The point is that if he didn't say the word karka, so then maybe the Eved is included. I'm leaving out a certain percentage of the nechasim I'm not going to give you. So then he'll say, you know who that is? That's you. You are the Eved. You're the one that I didn't free, that I didn't give you to yourself. So if someone gives his Eved all of his karka, all of his houses, he goes over to his Eved, I'm giving you all my houses, here's a contract. It's a joke. He didn't give him anything because he's still his Eved. And as long as the Eved is his Eved, so the houses that he's getting belongs to that Adon again. So just giving an Eved karka and houses and boats and everything didn't do anything. But if he said, I'm giving you all my nechasim, so that includes the Eved also. Here he says, I'm giving you all my nechasim except for a certain percentage. So then the Eved says, okay, I got everything besides a certain percentage. He says, no, you're the percentage that I'm holding back. So since I held you back, so you don't get anything because you're still my slave.
He was just teasing him.
Yeah, or he was complimenting him. He wants to make him a nechlach. Rashi says he wants to say that you're worth all my nechasim. You deserve everything, but you're still my Eved. So okay. But the point
That's
about
different than at the beginning when it said except for this one piece of land.
Right,
That's not a percentage.
Right, it's land.
The land can't be him.
Right, he's not called land. He's called percentage. You could call him the percentage of his estate, but he's not karka. So in the case where he said karka, Tanakama says that since he doesn't get the karka culture, he doesn't get himself either. And the Gemara understands that's because of lo plagina dibura. Reb Shimon says that case he is ben chorin. Why? Because plagina dibura. Then in parentheses it says if he would have said besides a certain percentage, then that will exclude the Eved, or he at least could say so. He could say I meant, and then he throws in a chiddush, even if he only counted like 1/10,000, and Eved says that I'm only 1/10,000 of your estate. Much more than that. No, it could be that the other is calling him only a 1/10,000, but that's like a side chiddush. But back to the same main point that Rav Meir says,
even if it's 1/10,000th of him, isn't
of
that
who?
also?
Of the
It's
Eved.
very important, but 1/10,000th of you is still going to be my Eved.
And the rest of him is yes. I don't know the law
Can't
about
do
freeing
that.
half an Eved. Could be you could.
Oh.
But then if you freeze half an Eved, so then the half an Eved could get
Oh, then he,
in the chassan.
that part will be
He'll be able to
free.
be kona. Then he'll be able to call in the chassan also. He'll become free, mostly
I see, so we don't
$9.99.
want
So probably not. So it means that they say that it means that the whole level they only consider it as 1/10,000. Okay, anyway, back to the subject. It seems Rav Shimon, Rav Meir, is the one who says lo palgina dibur. Rav Shimon is the one who says yes palgina dibur, and you will come out like Rav Shimon. That's not good. Rav Yosef, Rav Yumi, Rav Nachman, Ap Pishakilas, Rav Yossi, as Rav Shimon, Allah Rav Meir. Even though Rav Yossi praised, the word kiles is to praise, lalei or kales to praise. Rav Yossi liked Rav Shimon. It's the Mishnah over here. But halacha Rameir, like Tanakama, that says lo palgina dibur. So it ends with to be a kasha on Rav. You're saying palgina dibur like Rav Shimon. We don't. Rav Nachman says we don't pass like Rav Shimon. That's to put in parentheses where Rav Yossi said that. Where do you see he praised? Where did Rav Yossi praise Rav Shimon? The Tanya Kishanem with Bam Lefnei Rav Yossi. When this was said over in front to Rav Yossi, this Mishnah Tanakama Rav Yossi covered of a mikra azeh. Rav Yossi said the pasuk following the pasuk about Rabbi Shimon Sfasayim Yishak Meishav Dvarim Lechochem. So Rashi says it means his lips deserve to be kissed. Somebody who says such proper things. Pasuk in Mishlei probably, and other pshat they say the lips. The person who responds with such proper words, his lips should be kissed.
Okay.
And Toshi says Yishak means not after kissing, but it means when two things touch each other, it's called a kiss, and it means that everybody's quiet. Everybody's lips kiss each other. The lips, one person's lip, because when somebody says something so good, there's nothing to answer. So Rav Yossi praised Rav Shimon. But even though I praise Rav Shimon, we don't ask him like Rabbi Shimon. That's the kasha on Rava. Rava said
That's the end of the price.
That's the end of the brisa, right? And the Gemara at this point, whose kasha was this? So just to jump back. Oh, I keep on.
Who's what?
I'm a reckless driver today. Okay. This was whose kasha? Back to the page before. Avada bar Matana. Asked Rava. If you go back to the bottom of Amud Beit, Avada bar Matana said to Rava, "You're like Rav Shimon. We don't pass like Rav Shimon.
It's like a kasha.
It's like kasha. It's a long kasha. You pass like Rav Shimon, like this Mishnah. Rav Meir says this, or Rav Shimon says that. And even though Rav Nachman said, even though Rav Yossi praised Rav Shimon, we don't pass like him. That's all the end of the kasha. That we don't pass like Rav Shimon. You're in trouble, Rava, because you don't pass like Rav Shimon. And you hold Pagina Dibura, that's like Rav Shimon. We don't pass like him. We hold. You don't see a Pagina Dibura. Here go. Now the Gemara is going to say that you made a mistake. Rav Nachman, how do you quoted Rav Nachman as saying there was? Let's go back a couple of lines. It was Rav Yosef Amanyumi Rav Nachman. He's the one who said that the law is like Rav Meir, not like Rav Shimon. That can't be. I'm going to show you. Rav Nachman holds you do say Pagina Dibura. We're getting Rava back on track. That it's not true the way you quoted Rav Nachman saying you don't say Pagina Dibura. Rav Nachman says you do say Pagina Dibura. Rav is right. When we have Rav Nachman, does Rav Nachman say that you don't say Pagina Dibura? I'll show you. Rav Nachman says Pagina Dibura. Rav Yosef Amanyumi Rav Nachman. It also happens to be Rav Yosef Amanyumi in the name of Rav Nachman. Shchimera shekasav kol nechasav l'abda. Shchimera means somebody's dying, and he writes all of his estate to his eved. Everything means himself also. He's going to go free, and he's also going to get all of the estate of the master. He's like in a good position now, David. The master is a shchimera, and he's dying. He wrote him everything. But the Amad, and then the master got better. He got better. A miracle. He stood up, and everything's fine. So he wants to retract the din of a shchimera. So it says he could retract all the estate. He gets back to the estate because that's the din of shchimera. When somebody writes a will, when somebody says a last will, and he only did it because he thought he was going to die. He gave a present because he thought he was going to die, but then he gets better. So he didn't mean it. He meant only if I die. And he got better. Ahmad, he got better again. So he could retract the present of all of his estate. But he cannot retract the present that he gave David himself. He freed David. David goes free. David goes free, but he doesn't get all of the estate. And why is that?
And this is now.
This is still Rav Nachman is talking. He's explaining.
This is Rav Nachman explaining?
Right.
Okay.
The reason why he could retract the Nechasim is because it's a Ma'ana Shchimera. It's a present of someone who's dying, and the halach is if he gets better, he's able to retract because he only gave it on the intent that he's going to die. But since he got better, he takes it back. But he cannot retract the present that he gave the Eved, made him free. Because it came out on him in the name of a free man, they don't make him go back to become an Eved again. Anyway, what do you see? The Gemara sees in this statement, the Gemara sees here, Palgina Dibura. I wouldn't have understood it. Palgina Dibura, because he said, I'm giving you everything, and it comes out that everything is only going to be the Nechas, is only going to be the Eved, and it's not going to be the Nechasim. If he says it's a package deal, he shouldn't be able to split it up. So the Gemara is asking a kasha, and I
You
want the
wouldn't be
Gemara
able
is
to split it up even though there are
two different. The reasons make sense,
two
right?
different factors.
Yeah, the reasons would make sense. Yeah, the Eved, because since he was
The Eved already had a name of it.
right, you don't want to take it back from him. And then Nechasim, he's a Shchitmaras. He got better. He's allowed to take it back. So the reasons we'd be able to split it up. But if you hold Lo Palgin and Dibur, you can't split it up. Since the way that he did both of them was in one word, Kol Nechasim, I'm giving you everything, you can't split it up. And therefore the Gemara is proving that Rav Nachman himself does hold Palgin and Dibur. So Rav Ada Bar Matana that wanted to attack Rava, that Rav Nachman Paskin not like Rabbi Shimon, you don't say Palgin and Dibur. Can't be. It can't be. It's kasha, but that is not true because Rav Nachman couldn't have meant that you pass on like Rav Meir against Rav Shimon and you don't say Palgin and Dibur because Rav Nachman himself does say Palgin and Dibur. So Rav is back on track. You just have to understand now that what did Rav Yosef, Rav Nachman mean to say that Allah is like Rav Meir. Now Rav Nachman himself holds Palgin and Dibur, and if you pass like Rav Meir, when we learned Rav Meir a second ago, we said that it's because of Lo Palgin and Dibur.
Wait, how is he back on track?
Because Rav Nachman himself says Palgin and Dibur. Rav Nachman, the whole kasha was Rav Nachman says
it doesn't have to be Rabbi Shimon.
Right, that's what we have to figure out now. That we thought that when Rav Nachman said you pass like Rav Meir, that means Lo Palgin and Dibur.
Yeah,
and that's a kasha and Rava. But now we prove that's not true because Rav Nachman himself holds yes Palgin and Dibur. So he couldn't have meant he passed like Rav Meir against Rav Shimon.
or Rav Nachman was the one that brought.
Right, the whole thing is Rav Nachman on top over there. Rav Yosef Bar Nachman. You have that? It's right after the parentheses. Rav Yosef Bar Nachman. That even though he praised Rav Shimon, Allah like Rav Meir. Rav Nachman said Allah is like Rav Meir, and Lo Palgin and Dibur. The Gemara thinks, and the kash is that can't be true because Rav Nachman himself says also Rav Yosef Bar Nachman that he paskins this case of the Shchimera that he could retract the on the Nechasim, but the Eved still goes free. That is Palgin and Dibur.
Isn't that a kash on Rav Nachman?
Right. And we're going to explain it. He's showing it's not going to be a contradiction in Rav Nachman.
Oh, it's a kasha on Rav Nachman, so then that makes whoever.
No, it's not. There's going to be an answer to the kasha. It means Rav Nachman, you misunderstood Rav Nachman. You, Rabbi Matana, whatever, Rav Bar Matana, that asked the kasha. You understood Rav Nachman means like a pass like a mayor against Rav Shimon and Lo Palgin and Dibur. That's a mistake. He didn't mean that. Because if he would mean that, it would be a contradiction in Rav Nachman.
Nice.
He doesn't mean that. So what does he mean?
Okay.
Rav Ashi, some minor time Mishum the Lav was Gita who. Just translation over there. This is the reason because he's not a complete chorus, creases. It's not a full cut. The word the severance, like the word the sefer creases when that's on the other. It's a document of severance, and it wasn't a full severance. What's that all about? It's going back to the din of Rav Meir. When Rav Meir said in the beginning, in the case where he said, "I'm giving my Eved all my nechasim, with the exception of a karka culture." So he doesn't go free. And the Gemara understood the reason why he doesn't go free is because Lo Palgin and Dibur. That since in the statement that he said, I'm giving all my nechasim, then he said something not, some karka, a piece of karka not. So the statement was pagum somehow, like he made a deficiency in the statement, and to say that he's going to go free, and at the same time he's not getting part of the karka, that's like a palgina. You can't do that. That's what the Gemara told in the kasha. That's still Palgin and Dibur. And now the Gemara is saying that's not the reason. New reason. Really Palgin and Dibur. That would be the only problem. Rav Meir would hold his Palgin and Dibur. Like Rav Nachman also has Palgin and Dibur. Everyone. The reason why Rav Meir holds it doesn't work is because in the way that he's going to free his Eved, to sever the bondage that he's releasing there can't be any deficiency in that word. And the word, it's not an issue of Palgin and Dibur. That's to see the Tosfos
say all my things, but this is left over. Is it inherently a contradiction?
It's not inherently a contradiction, but it's not going to be a full creasus. In creasus, it has to be a full separation. And since in the word,
increases get for him to be free. Right.
Same way you have by a woman to be separated, severed. So also the Eved is being severed from his master, and he's going free. And
if he said, I'm freeing you and not giving you any of my property, then he's totally free, right?
Yes. Because
that's a full.
Yeah, because the freeing has nothing to do with the property. But here, the way that he freed him was kol nechasai. That's the way that he freed him. And then he's making some,
But I'm going back.
what's the word? Well, you kind of contract. You make a contract, then you make a stipulation. Like the word called l'chasai, but then he stipulated, but not
So
everything.
it's not full.
So it's not full, even though as far as the freedom, the liberty, there wasn't.
It's not,
This is-
that doesn't have to do
right.
with.
So not forget. See, here's the words over here. Well, masik. This is places words. This is probably I wanted before. Well, masik. The time they were made lavishum lo pagin dibur. The maskana is Rabbe's reasons not because of lo pagin dibura. Elonishum the love krusgitu. There's not a complete severance. Why is that pirush? The ain't krisos chimin sheyesh shiur b'dibur shumash takrabo. Since there's some kind of a stipulation in the words that are freeing him, that he said kol l'chasai, not all of it is becoming fulfilled. So that's why it's not a good krisos. End of Gemara. So what comes out? Rava Palgina Dibura, and that's the reason over here by the Shkib Meir also Palgina Dibura. The halach is Palgina Dibura. You could split that it works for some things, doesn't work for other things. But in the case of Rameh, there was exception over there. The reason why it's not good is because as far as the krisos, it can be that the words that free him have some stipulation which is being held back.
In terms of, excuse me,
Yes,
in terms of command, do we have an answer?
yes, that it's not only command Reb Shimon, it's command Reb Meir also. The Gemara thought that Reb Shimon and Meir are arguing if you say Palgina Dibura, and that would have been the kasha. Now we said it's a mistake. That he holds like everyone, holds like a Meir also. Meir is not involved in Palgina Dibura. Everybody holds Palgina Dibura. So back to Rava's case we started with, that the Eved came and said, funny nechtam on his get shechrur, and the get shechrur said kol nechasai. As far as if he's believed as far as some things, not believed as far as other things, that's okay. Palgina Dibura, we could take his namonis, and when he says that, I know that it's a good signature, and we believe him as far as himself. We don't believe him as far as the nechasim. That's okay. It's only when in the way that he freed him, the words that freed him, if there was some stipulation over there, that's when we get nervous. That's not a kruz gita. That's not a good severance. But as far as Palgina Dibura, we do paskin Palgina Dibura. Next Gemara. If this is the last words of the Mishnah and the Beis Amud Aleph that said that in Eretz Yisrael you don't have to say b'cholei nechta, because we can assume that there's verification available if you do need it, and if somebody comes to contest the get, you have to verify it, like any kind of verification. Get to waiver. If you said b'cholei nechta, so even 1/8, so we trust him, and then when someone comes to contest, we ignore him. We do ignore him. But if in Eretz Yisrael we didn't say b'cholei nechta, so it's kosher get. But if someone's going to come to contest, you have to get kiyum. And the Gemara wants to know who's coming to contest. Irakama. How many people are coming to contest? One person comes and says that it's forged. But Yochanan says that everybody holds that there's no contesting less than 2 people. One person comes to contest, you throw him out of bezdin. So there's no contesting. You don't have to verify the get. The get's kosher even if you don't verify it. What's going to be the case? That 2 people come and can say that it's forged. So then what is going to be the solution to verify it? Training, it's still going to be 2 against 2. 2 people come and say it's forged. 2 people come and say no, we know these signatures. So it's 2 against 2, and they're considered the balanced. They're contradicting each other, and we would leave the woman and status quo. Status quo is we know she was married, and she's not going to be divorced. We won't give her the status of a divorced woman because it's 2 against 2. If the get is a good get, so what is the case that the Mishnah says that when it comes somebody to contest, we have to verify the 2 signatures and then it's kosher. If it's only 1. You don't have to verify it because 1 is not considered a contestant. And if there are 2, then it's not going to help to verify because it's still going to be 2 against 2. What do you see to rely on these? Rely on these. Means when you have 2 against 2, you don't know who's saying who's more than what. It's 2 against 2. So who tells you to rely on these that say that it's verified? Rely on these that say that it's a forgery. So it wouldn't help you to verify it. The answer is the case is that the husband is coming to contest it. So he's better than it's not 1 person. 1 person out of the street who comes and says that it's forged, you ignore him. But if it's the husband, or by you get shechur, it'll be, let's say the adon, the master comes in, then you do listen to him. Then you have to get verification, but a verification of 2 is going to knock him out. It will be more than him. It's going to be 2 against the husband. That's okay. We believe the 2 ways. If it would be 2 against 2, then we would be status quo. So that's Pshat the Mishnah, that if it gets in Eretz Yisrael, doesn't have to have funny nechtam, and if the husband comes to contest it, then you have to get to wait to verify it. Otherwise, we have the leniency in the chuslaris. If he says funny nechtam, then he's trusted, and even though the husband's going to come, and 1/8 said that it's good, 1/8 the shliach alone is believed to say funny nechtam. We had to be more before.
Sorry, if you had 2 and 2, and the husband wasn't involved at that point, it's invalid, right?
Right, because it's 2 against 2. Even if the husband didn't say anything, to Adam say that's forged. It could be that you'll get, how is the way to prove it? If the man himself comes, the Eidim come and they say, this is our signature, maybe that's even better than two Eidim stam. He said, here, I'll sign in front of you. This is my signature, you see? I guess that maybe that is a way to verify. Just to point out, we had the Gemara that even in Eretz Yisrael, that you don't have to say b'fanei nechta, but Yavdas Ahanis. If he does say it, then he is going to help. He doesn't have to, but if the shliach did say b'fanei nechta, then he's believed, and later on when the husband comes, we ignore him because we had b'fanei nechta. Even though he didn't have to, if he does it, it does help. Okay, maybe get Medina Sayyam. As we said in the Mishnah, in the first Mishnah, that he has to say b'fanei nechta. But he can't say. Why can't he say?
Died.
No, he died on the spot. Interesting. No, I'm saying it's a good shot. Maybe the Gemara says similar. That he said he gave the get.
Right.
If he died before he gave it, he didn't give the get.
Right.
But he gave
He
the
gave
get.
it, and then he died, so he didn't have a chance to.
Okay, that'd be nice. I think Gemara's going to say similar.
Or he became deaf. He became deaf.
Chevish, that's what Gemara's going to say, right?
But he wasn't able to declare it.
Right. Some say a simple pshat. Machabusa found a simple pshat that he can't say it because he didn't see it. He really didn't see the writing and the signing. He comes in and says, "I can't say it b'fanei nechta because I really didn't see it."
Oh, just
That also might be included in the Mishnah. But the Gemara will say,
then it should have said, then it's the Yochel means.
you could have said also that he didn't say. He didn't say b'fanei nechta.
But he brought the get.
He brought the get and he didn't say. So get a kiyum. That also will be true. It also will be true that if he didn't say, so get kiyum. If you don't get the verification, it's not a kosher get. You have to have verification. But what here's in the yochel, he wasn't able to say. So the Gemara will talk about what does it mean he's not able to say. So if there are edim, if there are interesting words, if there are edim signed on the shtar, so verify. As if it could be that there are not edim signed on the shtar. So obviously here there are edim because the problem was he wasn't able to say b'fanei nechta. He wasn't able to say it. Means there were signatures. If there are no signatures, you don't say he wasn't able to say b'fanei. So if there are signatures on the shtar, which we're going to see later on, that it's not so simple. You have to have signatures because maybe we had already mentioned of those edim Masira currency. It could be enough just to have edim in front of whom he gave the get, not that has any signatures on the get. We're talking about that. We'll get back to it again later on. So
if they're eating,
if there are edim signed on the shtar. If there are edim, if there are signatures on the star, on the get,
then establish.
Then verify the signatures. Means the get is not kosher until you get verified signatures. You don't just wait until the Baal comes. If someone gave it, well, I guess Medina Sayyam, we have a takana to verify before you give it. We do have a leniency to even trust the shliach alone, even though he's one. But if you don't have that, because you can't, whatever the case is, so then you have to get verification before you give the get. It's possible. Right now, you can't use the get. She's not allowed to get married with this get till she gets verification. If she got married, we'll still get verification and then it'll be a kosher get. But if you don't get verification, it's possible. If she had children with this new husband, the mayor is going to say it's a mamzer and it's too late. And also, he might also say, the mayor places at a point, mayor, if she got married also, she has to get divorced and she can marry many more. The point of mayor is more serious. But we pass like the Rabbanan that they could verify it shortly before the wedding, before the wedding, before getting married, she could verify it with two edim. And according to the halacha, even after she got married, they could verify it. And after they had children also, verify it, the kids are going to be kosher. But if you don't verify it, it's considered a pasul get because we want verification. That's our takana, to make verification before she gets married. It gets considered pasul until she verifies it. It is true that if she had a leniency, they could have gotten the shliach himself, one aid. The shliach alone could have said, but if they didn't do that, they couldn't. So then get two aidim. Really, this is the end of the Mishnah, and we should really skip to the Gemara because the Mishnah now is a new Mishnah that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But we won't because we'll go according to the order that it's printed. But the printer did this to us. The printer messed us up. We should have had the Gemara on this Mishnah, then learn a new Mishnah. Here goes the new Mishnah. Both a divorce document and a liberation document are equal as far as the halachas of Molech Mevi. What is Molech Mevi? This halacha, maybe you get Medina Sayyam. We had before the first Mishnah Molech also. No difference which direction you're going from Chus La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael, from Eretz Yisrael to Chus La'aretz. The reason is because of verification, and there's not verification between the two places overseas. So therefore, you have to say b'fanei nechta. So just like a get, also a eved, a shechur eved, which was the sukkah we had this morning already about atzma kosav kol mechasav la'avdo, and he has to say b'fanei nechta. That's based on this Mishnah that also by liberation of Eved, also you have to say b'fanei nechtav in order to verify the signatures, and they had a leniency that the shliach alone is good enough. This is one of the ways in which there's a equation between the divorce and liberation. And we're going to see the next Mishais are going to come. The rest of the paragraph is going to talk about other ways that a get is equal to a shechur. So let's put in parentheses because we're not up to here yet.
This is one of the common denominators.
Right,
Okay.
right. And we'll continue with the rest of them later. So back to the first part of the Mishnah before, that says that if a person couldn't say b'fanei nechtam, so get verification. What's the case? What's the case that he couldn't say? Why couldn't he say? If he was deaf mute, he couldn't bring the get at all. It sounds like he gave the get, and that's a good giving of the get, but he has a problem that he wasn't able to say b'fanei nechtam. That's not true. Someone who's deaf mute is not kosher to give the get even. But Tanan, a kol shem love yes a get puts and everyone's kosher to be a shliach except for people that are not considered a bardas, a cheresh, deaf mute, shota, retarded, kata, and minor. So he's not kosher to give the get. I asked earlier, maybe the Gemara could have said it's only mute. That also could have been a reason. I asked the question before. Maybe he's mute. That's why not deaf mute, just a mute. Then he is considered a bardas. So
That's not a cheresh. That's not considered a cheresh.
It's not a cheresh who's not considered a bardas. He's considered a bardas. Only a cheresh who's deaf mute. He's the one.
Why wouldn't it work if he writes?
I don't know. Why can't he write it? He's talking about the one who's only mute. Okay. So anyway, the Gemara wants to know what's the case over here. The Gemara is trying cheresh to v'katan is not good. Rav Yosef the case was similar to Moshe's case, that he dropped dead on the spot. He gave it to her and he died. Here he gave it to her and then he became deaf mute. What happened? I don't know. He got all emotional. The fact he's giving the get. So so when he gave it, it was a good giving. It was a good giving of the get. But then when he as soon as he gave it, he couldn't say funny nechtav. He couldn't talk. He couldn't talk, and he became a cheresh. Can't hear. He can't talk. Of course, it's a very very not usual case. And the Gemara before utilize this to say that it's such a not usual case that we're not going to make a gezerah because of it, because of misal v'shchicha, because of Rabbana. The Gemara utilized this terrorist to say that it's not a normal case. Okay, now we go back to.
So then, what were we left with?
So we found the case. We found the case was that he died on the spot, or he became deaf mute on the spot. He gave over the get.
We said it's not common, right?
Yeah, it's not common.
It's still that.
That was the case.
Okay.
You could say a simple case in the Mishnah that he just didn't see the writing, he didn't see the signing. That's why I can't say it. It'll be a very simple case. But the Gemara before wanted Dafka this case to make an unusual case. Okay. Back to the other Mishnah. The other Mishnah spoke about that there's a common denominator between a get and a shechur, that both of them have to be by Molech Mevi, bringing a get, taking a get from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. So the shliach has to say b'fanei nechtav, b'fanei nechtav. The truth is that this is the rest of the parak is going to be all these Mishnayos, and the Gemara only reads a Brisa now, which is going to have all these cases. We're really learning the Mishnayos today of the rest of the parak. But it brings down the Brisa because it's one word that it has a number of it. Because of that, the Gemara brings down the Brisa. Really, it's all the Mishnayos coming up.
That second half of the Mishnah, right?
Right.
Okay, so it was so short. That's what it did.
Okay, but it would have been nicer to put a Mishnah, Gemara, Mishnah, Gemara. There's a Brisa that says there are 3 ways. In 3 ways, it says in the Mishnah, this is one of the ways, but it didn't say a number. Yeah, the Brisa says a number. In 3 ways, get and shechur have a common denominator. Number 1, shavul molech maybe. That's what our Mishnah says. As far as molech maybe, if somebody brings a get or a shechur from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz, or vice versa from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael, that you have to say b'fanei nechtam. Case number 2, common denominator number 2. Called get sheish of 8 kusi puzzle. Let's begin the nashim shechur about any star. The word get means a contract. Doesn't mean after a divorce. Any contract that has a kusi to be the 8, the kusi, we have in Sefer Malachim over there talks about the from Eretz kus, and they were questioned if they're a good gerim or not, and eventually they became goyim because we saw that they did the avodah zarah and hag reason. But in this point in the Mishnah, there's before that, and are they kosher gerim or not? Are they kosher eidim? So that's for some reason they made an exception that even though they're possible to be eidim on any kind of a star, but they did trust the 8 kusi for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And common denominator number 3, called Shtora Sa'olim Ba'akol Shel Goyim, Afal Pi Shechosmeim Goyim, Ksherim. all contracts that go in the Goyish courts, Arkos is the courts, and the Goyish court, even though the signatures are also Goyim,
So the Arachos are.
Arkos is the courts. Why is it called? Why is Arkos? Why is the word for courts Arkos? I'm not sure.
Evaluation.
I don't think so.
No.
Courts. Any translation? Any
Process by courts.
courts? Okay.
Yeah, process by courts.
Yeah, Goyish courts. Any contract that comes out of the Goyish court, even though the signatures are also Goyim, it's a kosher contract. Someone did a bill of sale, some whatever it might be, a loan, and he has Goyish signatures. It's a kosher contract. The case is going to be because they have a certain amount of authority and trustworthiness because they're a public service, whatever the case will be, the government. So therefore, we could trust the facts, even though not kosher them. But from the fact that they're a body that is trustworthy, so we do rely on their contracts. What plus we get the notion of them, but get and a shikhr has to have kosher signatures, and if the goyim it was a civil divorce, it doesn't make her divorced. It's not doesn't mean it's not a divorce. You have to have kosher edim in order to make them divorced, and also liberated. So those are the three denominators, three common denominators. One is about one is about the kusi being kosher. One is about that kos is puzzle. The goyish courts are puzzle for a get and for a shikhr. So we have three common denominators between get and shikhr. And according to Rameir is the fourth one. What's the fourth one? If someone said, made a shli, he gave a contract, gave the get to somebody, and he said, give this to my wife. Or another case, he gave liberation to the shikhr. What?
Give it to my Eved.
Give to my Eved, this contract of liberation. And then before it got to the woman or to the Eved, the man wants to retract. Can he retract? He gave it to the shliach, but then he says, "Give back to me. I take it back. I don't want to divorce. I don't want to liberate." So Rameir holds that he could retract either one.
And that's a fourth.
And that's the fourth one. Only according to a common. Only according to Rameir. Rabbanan say it's not a common because there's a difference between an eved and a shikhr. The eved and a woman. The Rabbanan are going to say that the eved, it's a supposed to get liberated. It's not supposed to get divorced, but it's supposed to get liberated. So therefore, by the Eved, once he gave the get shikhr to the shliach, he's already zocha. It's like zocha ladam shlobufan. He's already zocha for that. It's free already. Can't retract it. By the woman.
Oh, but the fact that it's by the shliach, there's no. I was going to say because there's a shame of shikras.
Maybe not. Maybe no. That's not only if the Eved got it. If this is on the way, he didn't get it. He didn't get free.
And still he could be free.
But according to Rabbanan, he's going to be free. He's free right away. According to Rabbanan, is not free for some reason that the shliach cannot be zocha for the Eved. Only until he only can be a physical shliach to bring it to him. But according to the Rabbanan, the Eved is going to be zocha. The shliach is going to be zocha right away for the Eved, and he's already free, so he can't retract. By the woman, that is considered a liability to get divorced. So then the shliach at most can just be a shliach to bring it. And once he gives it to her, she can become divorced. But till now, she's not divorced yet. So the husband could retract and say, "Give it back to me." But by the Eved, once he gave it to the shliach is already zocha for the Eved, and he got free. So you can't too late to retract
because it's good for him.
because it's good for him. It's good for him to. It's considered a schus to get freed.
So I have a contradiction on that.
Why?
If a shchif meira, that's different than a shliach.
Yes, because the shliach is only given on the intention that he's going to die. If he doesn't die, so the whole thing is off. It's we know it's like an ansadi. We know for sure that he only gave it if he's going to die. It's like he said on the condition that I die.
I see. It would be the same if he said to a shliach, give this property to so and so.
Even if he gave it to him, but he said, I'm giving it to you because I'm
a healthy person.
A healthy person.
He used a shliach.
And he made
to give my property.
Yes. So he's over right away.
Good for him. He's over
right away.
Retract.
It could be. Maybe we'll see more about that. I don't know the details. Yeah, that's Rashi seems to explain that according to a mayor, that even by Eved, it's also considered a liability to become free. And I want to argue and say that by freeing and liberating an Eved is considered a schos to get free. We was going to talk about it probably. Why? What's the machlokes? It could be that the fact that the master has to support the slave. We'll see. Is it considered a chol a liability or a schus to get freed. Okay, so that was the fourth common denominator according to Rabbi Meir. That's the end of the brisa. I've got the brisa. Now the Gemara is going to analyze the brisa. Really, it's almost nice coming up with the rest of the parak. The reason why the Gemara brought the brisa is because it has numbers 3 and according to Rabbi Meir 4. And that's the most kasha. Why we'll count ourselves the same way the Mishnah is not going to say a number. It just says this is one of the ways, another way, another way, another way. It just lists them out. Why say a number? But the brisa does say a number. We understand why the Rabbanan say 3. Why does it say 3? To exclude Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says a 4. So they say no, only 3. So the reason why they said the number 3 is to exclude Rabbi Meir as 4. But Rabbi Meir, why does Rabbi Meir say Rabbi Meir ba'arba and Rabbi Meir is a 4th? They could have just said Rabbi Meir has another one. Why does it have to say as a 4th one? He also must be coming to exclude something. According to Rabbi Meir, why the number is coming to exclude what? What's it coming to exclude? There is something to exclude. There's something else you might think that also is a common denominator, and Rabbi Meir says no, it's not a common denominator. Here it goes, to exclude the following brisa. If there are Eidim that don't know how to sign their name, what do they do nowadays? If someone does not sign his name, makes the next. And you have no reader that says, I saw he signed, he made the X before me.
Yeah.
So here it's good. How would I do if the Eidim don't know how to sign? It says they cut out a plain piece of paper and they fill in the cut with ink. So
Like I say for Torah, if you have like this outline of the letter, you could fill it in.
right? So that sounds like Rashi. Rashi says that Mekarin means
etching with black.
etching. So that's a Rashi that they're translating Rashi. The word Mekarin doesn't usually mean to etch; it means to cut. But Rashi says it means to etch. They take like an awl or something like that, and they etch out the name, and then what?
Make a template.
A template is Tosfos' Pshat.
This would be
Rashi
the
learns.
outline.
So Rashi,
So it's
the outline, a stencil, making a
Right.
stencil, what we call, that's Tosfos Pshat. You cut out a plain piece of paper with the outline of their name, and they fill in because they know you showed them that the stencil sitting on top of the document, and they fill it in, or some of it they go according to the lines. Rashi's Pshat is that they etch it out. They etch it out on the document itself, and they fill in the ink. So what do they do about a Sefer Torah? They make the outline and then you fill in the outline. More similar to Rashi's Pshat. Now they don't etch it out, but they outline it. So those are the two pshatim. The Kamer according to Rashi means to etch it, and according to Tosfos it means to cut out a stencil, to make a whole stencil in order to be a template in order to be able to fill it in. Anyway, they don't know how to sign, so you make it that they should be able to sign it. That is Tanakama. Rav Shimon Gamliel. That's only by a get. The Edom on a get could do that. But on a Shechur Avadim not, by a liberation document or by any other kind of document, then they have to know how to read and write. If they don't, they can't be an aid for other documents. By a get, maybe a special leniency by a get, because if the husband doesn't find aid, then what's he going to do? She's not going to get a get. Iguna, we don't want it to be left without a get. So what?
Make more leniency.
Leniency because we make sure she's able to get a get. If he wants to give her a get, give her, else he can't give her a get. But by other documents, get aidim that know how to read and write. So what did the Gemara do? Reb Meir holds like Reb Shimon Gamliel. The reason why he said only 4 is to say don't think that this is a common denominator. Reb Shimon Gamliel says it's not a common denominator. Reb Meir holds like Reb Shimon Gamliel that this is not a common. Tanakama might hold you could do it by both by a get and by a shechur. Could be that the Tanakama would hold that it is a common denominator. But Reb Shimon Gamliel says it's not. Only by get do we allow to do such a fill-in. By shechur avadim is like any other kind of document that you can. So Reb Meir wanted to say that before because he wanted to exclude that there are no other common denominators. This is not a common denominator. You only could make an Adam fill in their signature by a get, not by a shechur avadim. Once the Gemara mentioned this brisa, so it has a difficulty in the reading. It says that if they know how to read and write, what do they have to read for? No one spoke about reading. We spoke about writing. The whole issue was they don't know how to sign. So Tanakama says you can make a fill-in, and he says you can't, only by a get. But the question is, maybe in parentheses, who mentioned reading? The word dacha means mention, like zachar. The dalet is Aramaic for a zion. So who mentioned anything about reading? The answer is something's missing in the brisa. It does talk about reading. It's missing some words. This is the way it should read. It should say, Eidim Shein Yodim Likro. The Bryce also considered the issue about Eidim that don't know how to read. In order to sign a contract, you have to know what it says. So they don't know how to read, so they don't know what it says. So was also addressed. Eidim Shein Yodim Likros, Koron Lifnei the hostman. If the Aiden don't know how to read, so you read for them and they sign their name. And if they don't know how to sign, so then you do the stencil. So now the Brisa did talk about reading. Also, Tanakama said that you have the leniency of both reading and making a stencil for them, making us they should be able to sign. And Rav Shimon Gamliel says that these leniencies only by a get, but by other contracts, including Shechur Avodim, they have to know how to read, they have to know how to write. If they don't know how to read, get other Aiden. They have to know how to read the contract, and they have to know how to write the contract, how to sign their name also. Okay, so we finished the 3 and 4, maybe even the 5th one we spoke about. And those are the common denominators between the get and the liberation document. There are a couple of conscious that there should be more. There should be more common denominators. The Sulaka, is that all there is? Only 3 or maybe 4? There's another one. There's a follow. Is there not the following? Omer Tnu Gazel Lishti Ushtar Shechuzel Avdi Umes. Now Rashi takes out Rashi not over here, but Rashi someplace else takes out the word Zeh because he wants to stay. We want to maybe just block it out a second. This word Zeh to block out this one. Omer Tnu Gazel Lishti Ushtar Shechur LaAvdi. Not the case before. The case before we had, but we say give this. We had a machlokes. Is it considered a schos or a chov? Is it considered a liability? Are the shluchim is the shliach zocha or not? So that was sugi before. The Rabbanan say that it's considered a schos to get liberated and the kona right away. But in order to avoid that issue, take out the word zeh. And the case was somebody gave instructions. Not to give over. He didn't give over the document. He said instructions. Give a get to my wife. Or give a liberation document to my slave, Umes, and then he died. Before they did it, if they would have done the instructions, fine. But he died. He died before they before they wrote it and delivered it. So lo yitnu lachamisa. It cannot be given after death because he's not alive anymore. The husband only could divorce his wife when he's alive, and they only could free his slave when he's alive. Once he died, so she's not divorced from him unless he has something to do with Yibum and things like that. So she never was divorced. He can't divorce her after death, and also he can't liberate his slave after death. The Yarshim already Yarshim, and it's theirs. So you just see the gain of taking out the word Zeh. If you say the word Zeh, and it means he gave over the document, so then the Gemara said before the Zohar right away. If it's considered I say a schos. Merited. So then they'd be able. They would zocha right away, and he was liberated in a lifetime. A benefit. So that's why I take out the word zeh. That he didn't give over. He didn't go over the document. He just gave instructions. So better without the word zeh. So Tosfos over here points out this. Yesterday Rashi later on says take out the word zeh. So anyway, what does it say? That by a get and by a shechur is a common denominator by both of them. Don't give it after death. But if he said, he said, give $100 to somebody and he died.
Okay, it's good.
Then, they could give it after death because he was over right away, because it's a schos to get the money. So he said, give money. That's maybe it's considered that he gave instructions to give money. So then they do give it even after death. So that's the most kasha. We have a common denominator here between a get and shikha. Why doesn't it say it? We said only 3, according to Meir 4. Here's another case. The Gemara answers, Kikotani milts of the lesser bishtoros. We're only listing things that are common between get and shikha and don't apply to any other documents. But this applies to all documents. Milts of these bishtoros lokotani. We're not going to list things that apply to other documents also. Why is that? This halacha to say give a contract doesn't only that you can't do it, doesn't only apply to a get and a liberation, it applies to all kinds of documents. The Shalach Rabin Mishmei Rabavo, Rabin sent from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel in the name of Rabavo, Abu Yodin, you should know. Sheshalach Abulazar Lagola, Rabbi sent to the diaspora, Yishim Rabbeinu, in the name of Rabbeinu is probably Rav, I guess. Shlimir Rashama Kisvu to new Mano Laploni. Before we spoke about Tenu Mano Laploni. Tenu Mano Laploni, you give even after me. So once he said give it to him, it's good. But if he just said Kisvu to new Mano Laploni, Umeis, Ein Kosman Venostin, then you don't give it. You don't write the star, you don't give him the money either. Why? Maybe only meant to give the money together with the document. But the document is not going to end that. If he only said to give money, you can give money. But if he said write a contract and give him, maybe he made it dependent. Only if you're going to write a contract, give it to him, and you can't give a contract after death by any style. So the Gemara is happy with that. The kasha was there's more common denominators, by saying instructions to give a get or to give a liberation, you can't give it after that. I think Gemara says it's not common denominator only between the get and shechur. It's a common denominator by all documents that you can't give you can't give a contract after the man already died. You can't make a contract after he. List another common denominator. So the Gemara says here it's not so bad. Rabbi says that the reason why he said Panei Nechtam is in order to include to say that it was the Lishma. So according to him, it's good, it's nice, because when the Mishnah said the first common denominator was Mordechai Mevi to say Panei Nechtam, that already includes Lishma. That's the reason why you have to say Panei Nechtam. According to Rabbi, the whole reason of Panei Nechtam is only for verifications. It doesn't say anything about Lishma. So why doesn't it mention Lishma? That's kasha number one. Kasha number two, Vesu, and also there's another common denominator. Everybody should hold up that mechuber. What does it mean mechuber? That if the contract was connected to the ground, he wrote it on a leaf or something like that, and then he severed it from its connection to the ground. It's possible. It has to be because of a nasan. It has to be. There shouldn't be a hefsek between the writing and the giving. So it has to have already been severed before the writing, whatever writing means, the ksiva or the chsima. But you can't write and sign a contract on when it's still mechuber to the ground, and then separate it and give it. So that's both by a get and by shechur. So why doesn't it say it? The Gemara tries to answer. We're not mentioning all these the common denominators is only psul d'Rabbanan. Psul d'Oraisa we're not mentioning. They could be. You're right. Lishma. Let us highlight these things over here. There's Lishma. One kasha was Vayika Lishma. That's one kasha. And the other kasha is Ika Mechuber. These are the two kashas. Okay. So the Gemara answers, let's try to hold on to the answers at this point. The Gemara's first answer is the Raisa Lo Katani. We're not talking about common denominators that are the Raisa. And these two things are the Raisa. The other ones are all Rabbanan. The whole Mishnah is Rabbanan. The common denominators, the three, the four, everything's Rabbanan, but Lishma and Mechuber is the Raisa. We're not talking about the Raisa. The Gemara says not true. The Psula the Raisa. When it says in the Mishnah there's a common denominator that a get and a shechur cannot have in the Goyish courts, in the civil courts, it's not a good get or a shechur. That's a psul deraisa, and it does say for katani. So you see, we're talking about the raisas also. The Gemara answers the mamash to get out of this. The Gemara is going to make how do you say, like a somersault to get out of this.
The katani, at the end, the question
katani, right?
is
And it does say
right?
that, right? You're saying it doesn't say the raisa. It does say the raisa because the psul of goyim is the raisa, and it still says it. Yeah. So we're talking. So why doesn't it say lishma and mechuber? The Gemara answers, I can get out of it. I can talk about that. It's only Rabbanan. To have goyish court, the goyish signatures is only psul Rabbanan. The Eidem Mesirah Rabalaza, the Amar Eidem Mesirah Karsi. I could get out of it and say that it's only psul Rabbanan. Why? Because if you talk about Balaza, Eidem Mesirah Karsi, Eidem Mesirah Karsi means that the Eidem who in front of who you give over the get, they're the ones who Karsi. They're the ones who sever the marriage. The severance of the marriage happens by the Eidem of who you give it in front, not the Eidem Chesima, but the Eidem Mesirah. So according to that, the contract itself was not so important, even though it was goyish signatures.
Eidem Mesirah is the one that gives it to the woman.
No, the husband gives it to the woman, but in front of Eidem, and they're called Eidem Mesirah. The ones who are signed in the contract, they're called Eidem Chesima.
They testify
they witness the handing over of the get. And Rabbi Lezer holds that's what makes the divorce. Not the ones that are signed in the get, but the ones that witness the giving over. So according to that, it could be that you have a goyish contract. The civil court made the divorce, but the husband gives it over in front of kosher Eidem. So I could learn the Mishnah is only Rabbanan. If you hold that the chsim has to be with the Raisa, so goyish Eidem, apostle with the Raisa. So I wouldn't have listed it because we're not talking about the Raisas. But I could say the Mishnah holds like Rabbi Lezer, Eidem Mesirah Karsi, and you had Jewish Eidem Mesirah, just that the contract with the signatures with goyim, and it's only psul Rabbanan. But the Gemara is still not happy with that. How could you say the Mishnah is going this? How could you say the Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Lezer? The Mishnah is not going according to Rabbi Lezer. But the Tani Sefer, the Sefer says the Shimon over there says that one of the we just had it, or we're going to have it, that one of the common denominators, is these Goyish courts. The Goyish courts is a common denominator that the Shechwa and the Ger are not good. Reb Shimon argues, Reb Shimon Amar Af Eluk Sherin, that he's also kosher. Even Goyish courts is also kosher. And what does it mean to say? Vam Reb Zera. Reb Zera explains what does Reb Shimon say that it's kosher. Yara Reb Shimon Lishatas Shara Bulaza. That made him Mesir Karsi. Reb Shimon holds like a Bulaza. They made him Mesir Karsi, and therefore, if you have Goyish signatures, it's okay. So you see that according to Bulaza, it's kosher. What was the most kosher? If you know that the din of Goyish courts, the civil divorce is not kosher with the Raisa. That was the kasha. The Gemara tried to get out of it by saying that according to Rabbanan is only possible with Rabbanan, because you have Eidim Masira that are kosher Eidim Masira, and the civil divorce document, no, it's only possible with Rabbanan. But now the Gemara says no. According to Rabbi Elazar, Reb Shimon says that it's even kosher. It's not possible at all. It's not even possible with Rabbanan. Michlal Tanakama Savar lo. It must be that since Reb Shimon's one holds like that it's kosher, Tanakama said that it's possible. It's like the Rabbanan and it's possible the Raisa. So what are you telling me that I found you psul Rabbanan? No, you see it's the Raisa, and you see cases even of the Raisa, and the Kash comes back. Why doesn't it say Lishma and Mechuber? Is the logic going well? It's a little bit it's like how do you call it? Shminiyot. In order to say this, they're doing somersault. The Gemara is in order to say that Mishnah is only talking about Rabbanans, we want to say it's Rabbi Elazar, that they have kosher Eidim Masira, and the civil document, no, it's only a possible with Rabbanan. The Gemara says not true. If it's a civil document, according to Rabbi Elazar, it's kosher. Because Rabbi Elazar, that's what Rabbi Shimon says. Rabbi Shimon says, Apelu Ksherim, and the Gemara explains because he holds like Rabbi Elazar, and he holds that as kosher. So the Tanakhama says that it's not kosher, it's going to Rabbanan, and Eidim Chasim Akarsi, and it's possible with the Raisa. So you do this the Raisa. If you do this the Raisa, say the Shmuel Mechober also, top of the page, you give Benayu, Shem was Mechokin.
I'm sorry, what was the mikvah?
Yeah, so we could derive if Reb Shimon, who says that's kosher, we could derive that Tanakama says that it's possible. He holds not. What does he hold not? He doesn't hold the Kabbalah, and he holds that it's the Masir Chasim Karsi, and it's possible with the Raisa, and it's still listed as Psul the Raisa. The Gemara answers, really, you could say that both of them hold the Kabbalah. According to Rabbanan, it's possible with the Raisa. We're not talking about that. But according to Rabbanan, what's the machlok? Is according to Rabbanan. Shemus Mufakin. Shemus Mufakin means I don't know the real way to translate it. Maybe you can help me. Shemus Mufakin. Top of the page.
Mufak is like a river. Mufak is the one.
It's going to be the same word, but what is it translated?
Characteristic.
Characteristic.
Like,
A characteristic name. I'm not sure it's going to be by the Rebbe. A Rebbe Mufak. It means it's
You're known to be.
it's like an obvious characteristic or distinct. Maybe distinct is distinct. It's distinct Rebbe. It's called a Rebbe Mufak. And here, Shemus Mufakim means that it's this distinct Goyish name. What's a distinct Goyish name, for instance? John. Or another one? Paul. John and Paul. So, no, Paul is also a Jewish name over here. So,
James.
okay. But the point is to say that there's a question over here. If the goy in the civil court, the civil document that you have, if it had a goyish name, that's a real goyish name. Is the achshash you're going to use them also for Eidim Masira?
Muhammad.
Okay, and now we're getting so everyone going to Abulazar. The one wants to say we're going to Abulazar. Everyone has like Abulazar. Only Psul Drabbana. Yeah, the Eidim Masira, Kosh Eidim Masira, and the Eidim Chasima knew. So it's a goyim. It's okay. Is it okay? So the question is, it's okay or it's possible with Rabbana? Why should it be okay? Because if it's a real Goyish name, you have the Muhammad over there, that sign. So no one's going to think that he's a Jewish aid. And you're not going to say, okay, come and also be Eidim Masira. If you're using him for Eidim Chasima, you can use him for Eidim Masira also. So if it's a name that's Nunu, it could be Jewish or Goyish. So you might think that he's Jewish already. And you'll take him step up also to be Eidim Masira. So then it made it possible with Rabbana. But if it's a real Goyish name, then we say there's no chash and it's even kosher. So the one's trying to juggle all this to say that the Mishnah is all like Rabbi Elazar, it's only Psul Rabbanan or kosher. But according to Rabbanan of Rabbi Elazar, the whole Eidei Chasim Karsi, then it's going to be a Psul Rabbanan, and we're not going to even mention it. The Gemara did all this in order to say we're talking about only Psul Rabbanan, and in order to answer the kasha, how come it doesn't say the common denominator of the Shema and Mechuber? The Gemara continues. I have more kashas. The case of Chazar was the case. That was the fourth case of Rav Meir. Can he retract? He gave the get to a shliach or a shliach, and he wants to retract. The Meir says he may retract because they're both considered a liability, and he may retract. When he retracts, that's a psul deraisa because he was mevatel the shliach. He doesn't want to be a shliach anymore. So it is deraisa v'katani. So all the work we did is with this somersault didn't work. Like we don't need it anyway because the Gemara slugs it up. You see, there's a case in the Mishnah talks about which is the Raisa. So Kash comes back again. Why doesn't it say the Shema and Mechuber? The teretz she said is not a good teretz. Back to the Kasha. Why doesn't it say the Shema and Mechuber? The answer is Ela Kikatani Milzat less of a kedushin. Milzat these are kedushin no katani. We're only talking about common denominator between a get and a shichur, a get and a liberation. But it doesn't apply to a marriage. But something which is the common denominator to get and shikra and also kedushin, that was that we're not listening. And the shema has to be by kedushin also, and the chover is absorbed by kedushin also. So therefore, we don't mention it because it's something which is isa b'kedushin, and we're only listening to things that are less of kedushin.
The lace of the kedushin.
We're listening to things that are less of kedushin, and the shema and the chover is isa b'kedushin. So we don't listen. The Gemara is kasha v'chazar gufa isa b'kedushin. Mamish, the case we just asked the kasha at the top line, Chazara the Raisa. Chazara is also big kedusha. What's the case of Chazara? That he gave a shliach and now he wants to retract. May he retract? So by get he may retract. By get he may retract because it's instead of a liability. How about if he made a shliach to give kedusha to a woman? Then he retracts before he got to her. Can he retract? Or was the shliach?
A get is also kedushin, isn't it? It's to sever kedushin.
Yes, but it's the opposite. The get severs and the kedusha makes the kedusha. So,
Okay, so severing it is not considered an Indian of kedushin.
No, it's talking about Isa mean that it applies to marriage also. It applies to
So doesn't it
the
apply
act
to
of
marriage
marriage.
because you're severing the marriage?
No, there's making marriage and severing marriage, opposites, kedushin and gitin. So the Mishnah says the Gemara said at Teretz that we're only listing common denominators between a get, severing the marriage, and shechur, liberating the slave. But if it
Which is
also
not
applies to
kedushin.
marriage, which is not kedushin.
Okay.
But if it applies to kedushin, we're not going to list it.
Yeah.
The Gemara's kash is the whole din of chazara applies to kedushin also. The din that the husband he gave a get to the shliach, he wants to be able to retract. Yes, he may retract. And to a shechur, he gave a liberation document to the shliach. He wants to retract. He may retract. How about if he gave kedushin? He gave the ring to the shliach and said, "Bring it to this woman. I want to marry her." And then before the shliach gets to the woman, I want to retract. May he retract? Yes, he may retract. Because you can't make a shliach only because it doesn't become you can't marry a woman without
Without the woman.
the woman and without her consent. Maybe she doesn't want to marry. It's considered a liability also to get married because she can't marry anybody else anymore. So she has obligations to the marriage. So it's also something which could retract. So if you're saying you're not listing things that also have a common denominator of kedushin, how come it says chazara? The case of chazara, the Rameh says is a common denominator. It's also a common denominator between kedushin also.
Oh, I see.
And he says you're not listing that. The answer is, I'm not so sure of the answer. The answer is the shlichus bal korcha, the begerish and isa, the kedushin lesa. We can continue tomorrow. I'm not sure what these words. It means, can you make a shliach against her will? By get, you give a get against her will, and by freeing Evan, you can make him free against his will.
Right.
But the shliach can't be zocha because it's a liability for that party, for the woman, for the Evan, it's liability. But you, mitzitcha, you can make a shliach against his will, and there we have a common denominator. Both of them you could retract because it's considered a liability for the recipient, so therefore it's not zocha right away. But by kedushin, there is no such thing as making a shliach against her will, because you can't marry her against her will. So that's supposed to be the answer. I don't understand the answer well. What's the answer? Therefore, that's not considered a common denominator. Even though by all of them you could retract. You could retract by all three of them. You could retract. He gave it to a shliach and he wants to retract. He could retract by all three of them. But it's a different kind of retracting. I don't get the real answer. That by kedushin, the whole shlichus was only because if she would have wanted. By the other two,
Right.
by the get and the shech, it doesn't make difference if they wanted or not. But you can't make a shliach against her. You can't make somebody to accept it because you can't make a detriment. You can't make a liability with a shliach. You can give it to their hands. The husband or the adon could give the get even if they don't agree. The kedushin, there's no such thing as a kedushin against the will. Kedushin also always has to be with her consent.
I thought the
So
divorce
that's
has
why the
to.
retraction by kedushin it doesn't play here. It doesn't play because
There's no issue at all making a shliach because he's not a mandama. She has to agree. Over here, by the get and by the
get, I don't understand. I thought that to get the woman has to agree to accept it.
no.
Oh, no, by.
You're talking about modern times. You're talking about modern times. Not only with Rabbanan. In the
I'm talking
Gemara,
about modern time.
modern times that they
So
made a
you can
takana
be
better
against the will,
get. It's not Rabbanan. It's like a takana after the Gemara. And the
That's a
Gemara,
different-
we should have introduced homosexuals gitin, that it doesn't have to have the consent of the wife. If it
Doesn't have to.
It doesn't need the consent. They made it the kind of later on, only if she consents, that makes a lot of
So that's
problems.
why it's
nowadays.
different.
That's why-
So it's different than Kedusha.
Right.
But today, it's a lot of,
Yofi, Todar.
Yeah.
doesn't want it.
So we're gonna do Yud on,
Yeah.
Tonight, Bezrat Hashem, tonight,
Tonight at
12 o'clock. I
12
hope
o'clock,
I
great.
should be able to understand.